Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and good to see you here. My name is Hendra from UCLG ASPAC, and I'll be the moderator of today's kickoff seminar. So today we're going to have a kickoff seminar, training for local actors, integrating a human rights-based approach into local SDGs policies. And this seminar is jointly organized by RWI, the City of Gwangju Government, Asia Democracy Network, and UCLG ASPAC. So this kickoff seminar is aiming at to increase the awareness of the local governments and all of the local actors to reinforce the relationship between the human rights and the SDGs, as well as to facilitate the exchange of experiences, opportunities, and the challenges to integrate the human rights into the SDGs implementations. So I'd like to welcome all the participants, local governments, the CSOs, the NHRIs, their supervisors and the advisors as well. Hopefully that you are all doing well and can participate in this seminar until it ends this afternoon. So today we are going to follow the seminar, which is divided into two parts. The actual seminars and the technical briefing. So after the seminars, I would like to remind you, all of the participants, to stay on, that the technical briefing will be provided by the RWI after the Q&A sessions. And before we start off with the opening remarks, I would like to invite Windy Arini from RWI to open the session. Windy, floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Windy Arini. I'm from Raoul Wallenberg Institute. I'm based in Jakarta. And it's very good to see you all here today with us. And I hope you are all in good health. And I wish you a very fruitful discussion. And Hendra will start with the welcoming remarks from the co-organizers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Windy. So without further ado, I would like to invite, Yes, I would like to invite Dr. Tuti Alawiyah, the Deputy Director of Raoul Wallenberg Institute, Jakarta office, which will be delivering the opening remarks. Time and floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hendra, for the time. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our kickoff event for this training. First, I would like to thank the co-organizer for this event. First, Dr. Bernadia from UCLG ASPAC, who will provide remarks through video, and also Bapak Ical Supriyadi from ADN, and representative from City Gwangju, South Korea. We also really appreciate for the time and availability of our speakers, Dr. Nata Pimpa, Associate Professor and Assistant Dean, ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies. Also, Mr. Hum Bandari from the NGO Federation of Nepal, and Mayor Santosh from Tansen Municipality, Nepal, and also, of course, representative from the City of Semarang. Thank you for coming, Bapak Dr. Insinyur Nana Storada Dwi Martadi, for coming to this event. And to all participants, advisors from NHRIs, from all 4 countries, and CSOs from Indonesia, Philippines, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Thank you all very much. First, I would just briefly note on RWR or RWI. This is like RWI is, as you know, an independent institution founded in 1984, based in Lund and Sweden. We affiliate with Lund University and work in 4 areas, including human rights and environment, human rights and disaster displacement, human rights and SDGs, and human rights and access to justice. We operate in 6 offices, including one in Jakarta as our regional Asia Pacific office. In the area of localizing human rights or SDGs context, RWI over the past few years have been active, working and bringing together stakeholders with different responsibilities toward localizing human rights, gender, and environment in the context of SDGs in the local context. For this training, I would like to quote from Eleanor Roosevelt in 1958. She asked a question that where human rights begin. Roosevelt's answer was simple. She said, human rights begin in small places close to home. That's why our training today actually address this specific topic on how do we localize human rights in the local level. Local government as cities are very important. According to the United Nations report, for instance, by 2050, more than 2/3 of the world population will live in urban areas. Currently, for instance, we can see the shift in Indonesia, where like 2 decades ago, around 1990s, like around 60% people living in the rural areas. However, nowadays, in 2020, for instance, around 60%, around 56% living in the cities, and by 2035, not long actually from now, about 66% of Indonesian population will live in cities areas. This must be addressed, including how actually our local government work on localizing human rights in the context of development and achieving the goals that we all aim and commit to do around the SDGs. So the training itself was inspired by the handbook, our handbook pioneered by 3 universities and working across different Asian countries on localizing human rights and how it works at the local level. The training itself will last about 5 months, so it's actually quite long, from July to December. So hopefully by the end of this training, the participant will have better understanding on the connection between human rights, the environment, and gender equality, and how we could support the achievement of the SDGs at the local level. Therefore, we really appreciate all the 15 training participants and of course advisors who are representatives from local government and HRI CSOs from 4 countries that will join the kickoff today, as well as the training. Today, leadership and kickoff forum hopefully will bring some insights for all of us, including our partners and mayors and participants, to strengthen our commitment and collective action to integrate human rights in the local SDGs policies. Lastly, I would like to thank our RWI team, Windy Arini, who is the program officer and who coordinate tirelessly this actually 5 months training, and hopefully today everyone will have great experience, and I hope a successful kick-off and leadership forum today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tuti Alawiyah, the Director of RWI Jakarta Office, for your opening remarks. Next up, we will be hearing of the opening remarks from UCLG ASPAC, Dr. Benadia Indrawati Chandra Dewi as Secretary General. However, due to some circumstances, she will only deliver the message through video. So please, we can share her video here to hear of the opening remarks from Dr. Benadia.
Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from UCLG ASPAC Secretariat in Jakarta. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for being selected to join this training program. I really hope that this training program will be beneficial for you to gain the skills and knowledge of human rights localization in the context of SDGs. UCLG ASPAC is so delighted to continue our cooperation in building the capacity of local governments in close collaboration with Raoul Wallenberg Institute and Gwangju City, and recently joined by Asia Democracy Network. And the aim of it is to enhance the capacity of cities and local governments to promote human rights based approach as one of the important elements in the local development planning, as well as in the local development management. So UCLG ASPAC has been in partnership with the Raoul Wallenberg Institute and Gwangju City to facilitate this training since 2020. And we will certainly continue to strive for improving local government's awareness and capacity of human rights based approach. So appreciation must be given to our close partners, RWI, as well as Gwangju City, very active members of UCLG ASPAC and UCLG World, and who have been very committed to build a strong ties in promoting human rights for local governments towards what we always uphold to be achieved, which I think this is very important: human rights cities establishment in the Asia Pacific region. So local governments are the key to institutionalization of human rights mainstreaming into development programming. I think you recall United Nations Human Rights Councils recognize a very important role of local governments in the promotion of human rights as well as in the protection of human rights. With local governments' proximity to citizens, local governments are the ones most likely to generate a real impact on all aspects related with the guarantee of rights, such as education, housing, health, freedom of expression, culture, promoting directly equity and inclusion, and protecting the minorities. This is all what you have been doing. So in the context of SDGs implementation, human rights have become the global norm that fosters the basic values to work towards more sustainable development. On the other hand, SDGs achievements is the manifestation of the human rights fulfillment. So to give more emphasis, during this COVID-19 pandemic, for example, local governments have proved to be a driving force. I call it a driving force for social assistance delivery, as well as for economic recovery, ensuring that those SDGs targets were still to be achieved even during these challenging times. So no doubt the local government's role in public service delivery is also part of the human rights localization, with the objectives to fulfill minimum standard of public services. So those efforts are integral to the SDGs set of targets and indicators, which encourage the connection of human rights promotion with the SDGs achievement. In other words, fulfilling the human rights will help achieve the SDGs and vice versa. So, however, as a matter of fact, local governments cannot work alone apart from their environments. And we know that it's impossible for local governments to do everything by themselves. We need partnerships. Recognizing the important role of civil society and human rights organizations in the promotions of human rights values, local governments must open to any collaborative actions involving those counterparts. UCLG ASPAC will continue encourage local governments to work within a pentahelic model, where the cooperation of 5 pillars in the SDGs achievement is tantamount to the establishment of enabling environment for more collaborative actions initiatives. So civil society and human rights organizations may become good partners in the attempt to oversee the implementation of human rights. They may also give constructive feedbacks to local governments to generate the human rights sensitive policies and budgeting. Hence, strong collaboration with human rights community will certainly help improve the local government's policies, as well as accelerate the achievement of SDGs. UCLG ASPAC is committed to strengthening the collaboration among relevant counterparts in human rights training program, targeting our local government's members. As local government associations, we feel obliged actually to increase our members' capacity on human rights localization in order to better deliver public services and at the same time protect the human rights. UCLG ASPAC would like to extend our appreciation to RWI for our collaboration and continued supports and technical capacity to organize the training for the past 2 years. We are so glad to see much more interest coming from local governments like you to participate in this training. So I also like to thank our important member, City of Gwangju from South Korea, for the constant energy to share your experiences, Gwangju experiences of becoming the first human rights cities in Asia Pacific. So with the peer learning initiative brought by this training, I hope more human rights cities will be established in Asia and Pacific region. And actually our goal is to have 100 human rights cities established this year. And I really hope that all of you, the participants of this training, you will apply what lessons learned that you gain from this training, and you can be one of the first human rights cities in your countries. So I wish you a very good seminar. I'm sure your participation, your active participation will spark the beginning of human rights localizations and accelerate the SDGs achievement in your cities. So wish you all the best and thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, that was the great video message from the UCLG ASPAC Secretary General. And next up, we'll be hearing the remarks from the Gwangju City that will be delivered by Professor Byung-Gu Shin. But however, due to some circumstances, he can only deliver the message through the video as well. So please, the screen share the video message of the Professor Byung-Gu Shin.
Hello, my apology for not being able to be with you just in time because now I am on a business trip. So the time difference does not allow me to be with you now. But still, I would like to welcome you to this important blended learning course, which we started already 3 years ago. It is an integrating approach to human rights into local SDG policies from Indonesia, the Philippines, Bangladesh, and Nepal. As most of you know, the City of Gwangju began the World Human Rights Cities Forum in 2011. This year, we are holding it in October 10 to 13. We planned this forum not simply to meet, to talk, and to disperse, but we want to make it a forum to promote actions. In this direction, this blended learning course is one of the most important projects of our action plans. Blended learning course in fact preceded the COVID-19 era by beginning online component before 2020, where COVID-19 struck the world. Even though it is not familiar with us, it is important for us to adapt ourselves to this kind of online component, not only in education, but also in our future and current administration. So even though it is not easy to complete all the modules, I hope that you can take care of all the modules, helping each other, adapting ourselves to the new normal. I also hope that we can expand our network for our future collaboration among cities. In this regard, the City of Gwangju and the Raoul Wallenberg Institute and UCLG ASPAC can be your partners continuously. Hope we can meet again from time to time during this course. Thank you very much. And then good luck for your program participation. Hello.
Hendra, you're on mute.
All right, thank you so much. So that was the great message from Professor Gyung Xian. And last but not least, we'll be hearing the message from the director of Asia Democracy Network, Mr. Ichal Supriyadi. So I'd like to give the floor for him to deliver his message. The floor is yours, Mr. Ichal.
Thank you, Mas Hendra. I would like to re-expressing my congratulatory words to all hosts and co-hosts of these programs. My respects and my gratitude to Dr. Tuti Alawiyah, Dr. Bernadia, Dr. Professor Songs, and all friends who are preparing or involving in these projects. Of the training for local actors, integrating human rights-based approach into local SDGs policies. Indeed, why ADNs from the first times feel this project or this kind of approach are very important, since it is indeed the voice of the human right has been embedded within the SDGs languages, where the processes is really depending and really able to empowering the democracy practices in the local levels. In this connection, the Asia Democracy Networks seeing the strategic and then the importance of the local and cities, governments, and local actors participations to take the positions and then play critical roles, providing supports, accelerates, or even providing innovative and better way of the practice of human rights and then democracy in the local levels. Consolidation is happening in all front of democracy and human rights at the moment of times. We all know many countries or most of the countries in Southeast Asia, South Asia, East Asia, North and Central Asia are now under crisis. only few still survive that able to pronounce and upholding democratic and human rights practices. In these connections, we believe this approach is not only providing opportunity for trainings, but also providing corridors of democracies where different stakeholders are coming together and try to working on some things. I always believe the local democracy and then the local actors can play a very critical role in here. You may providing access, you may providing nexus and a good opportunity of the survival of democracy. So beside the trainings, beside increasing awareness and then increasing capacity, we have to accept the deal if we are racing with the survival of democracy and human rights at the moment of time, since we all realize a very rapid and enormous influence of the illiberal forces that are happening in all aspect and sector of democracy and human rights at the moment of times. So the ADNs, as the largest civil society network in Asia with over 500 national and partners across Asia, are very happy to joining these endeavors in order to find a new way that involving and increasing participation of the locals. I saw in here, and I'm very proud to extending my gratitude to friends from National Human Rights Commissions of different countries, cities and local governments from different countries, and then representative of civil society from Nepal, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka, and then the Philippines. I think this is not only continuing for those who are already familiar with these processes, but of course, introducing and extending our networkings that perhaps we can carry forward into the action or more comprehensive plans. I would like to congratulate for the participants, and then all the best for the program and all of us. And we're looking forward to learn each other and I try to enhancing consolidation democracy in the regions. I return back to Mas Hendra, and then again, congratulations.
Thank you so much for the great opening remarks, Mas Ichal. And that's the opening remark sessions that we have come to an end. So before we go to the next sessions, we'll do the photo session. So please switch on your camera, and our friend from RWI will help take the photos. Please, everyone, switch on your camera, and we'll do the photo sessions soon. And RWR will take the photos accordingly. So go ahead.
Everyone.
So hi everyone. So my colleague Lina will help with taking the pictures. We have 2 slides here, so bear with us. So this is the first slide. Please put your best smile. 1, 2, 3. One more. Okay. One more for the second slide. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Balina, for helping taking the photos. And next, before we go to the panel discussions, we will be hearing some presentations from Windy Arini of RWI for the presentation of the setting the science, connecting the dots between the human rights and the SDGs. So time and floor is yours, Windy.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Windy Arini. I'm a program officer at the Raoul Wallenberg Institute based in Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm the one behind all the emails that have been sent to your email addresses. And I hope you'll not get bored of me so soon, because you will be hearing a lot more from me in the next few months. And since I will be the main facilitator for this training program, I'll be with you until the end of this course in early December. So my presentation is really to set the scene, and this is, I'm sure this is nothing that's new to you, but so this to just jolt your memory, and you will learn a lot more about this in the course itself. And earlier, my deputy director has introduced you to Raoul Wallenberg Institute. We are an academic institution based in Lund, Sweden, but we are operating in different countries, including Indonesia. And in this particular topic on localizing human rights in the context of SDGs, we have been working on this since 2019 at the start of our current program. And we have been developing and maintaining a partnership with different organizations, which are partners of ours in this training, which are ADN, UCLG ASPAC, and City of Gwangju. And we have also here our university partners from Indonesia and India who have helped us in developing the handbook, which I will be talking about later in my presentation. So as you can see, the highlight of my presentation is really that, as mentioned earlier by Mas Ichal, that Agenda 2030, the SDGs, is particularly linked to human rights principles and conventions, and both are not two separate entities, which people often seen human rights and SDGs as two separate items, which they're not. And the local efforts to promote human rights will almost always help in achieving SDGs. You think it as SDGs as something that you would want to achieve, you want to arrive at, and see human rights as a tool or principles that can help you get to that point. And this is what we are trying to share through this training, that human rights is a very useful tool for cities and other localities on achieving SDGs. And next slide, please. To just give you a very simple examples, the 2030 agenda is unequivocally anchored on human rights. 90% of SDG targets are embedded in human rights treaties. For example, over here we have goal 11.3 of the SDGs, which aim to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlement planning and management in all countries. This goal is particularly linked to several human rights instruments. As you can see on the very right-hand side, there are several human rights instruments listed here. There are UDHR, CRPD, CEDAW, but this is obviously a non-exhaustive list, and you will learn a lot more in the modules once you get into the Canvas platform that we're going to use throughout the training. And human rights-based approach can be a useful tool to help local governments to achieve the SDGs. You might know that a human rights-based approach is, at the most basic, the notion of ensuring that if one is initiating a project or forming a policy, that project or policies, goals are shaped by international human rights standards, and its processes reflect human rights principles. So human rights-based approach consists of the principle of universality and inalienability, indivisibility, interdependence, non-discrimination and equality, participation, inclusion, accountability, and the rule of law. So each of these principles can have a positive impact at every stage when applied to the life cycle of policy development or the initial design of certain projects, implementation, and the monitoring and evaluation of that policies and projects. So local governments that adopts the human rights-based approach, we believe that human rights-based approach can help local governments to develop policies and programs that can address the actual needs and challenges of their residents even more comprehensively. And the human rights-based approach helps local governments pay particular attention to groups in vulnerable and disadvantaged situations. But also human rights-based approach, as part of it, is the participation of and inclusion of the underserved communities will be a lot more beneficial in the post-development processes, and engagement and cooperation, collaboration with other actors like CSOs and NHRIs would be very beneficial, as we will also highlight in the training. Next slide, please. And this is just to give you a glimpse of human rights and SDGs are interrelated, but so does one SDGs to the others. As you can see, the goal 11 is closely linked to practically all other SDGs. And I can share this presentation with you later on for you to ponder upon. And next slide. So this is the handbook for cities that we launched earlier this year. That is actually the main reading material for this training, but also a handbook that inspires the whole training this year. And we developed this handbook since 2021. Together with our partners from India and Indonesia, and with the help of the City of Gwangju and UCLG ASPAC, which we are very grateful of. So this handbook offered both theoretical knowledge on human rights and steps on how to integrate human rights principles and human rights-based approaches into local policies through participatory processes. And we provided 3 very general steps. One is the situation analysis, which means that before policy development processes, it's encouraged for local governments to know their cities first, including who are the rights holders who are being affected by certain contexts. For example, if your city is prone to drought or floods, then who are the most impacted communities or individuals? And you will learn a lot more about this in the modules. And the second step is the policy development process itself, where we promote, again, a participatory processes in the policy development, where it is suggested for local governments and cities to work together with the rights holders, NHRIs, CSOs, and other actors in the city to develop policies and programs. And then the third one is the monitoring and evaluation, where again, participation and inclusion of rights holders and other actors in the cities or other localities is important in monitoring and evaluating the policies that are being implemented. Next slide. Other than the handbook, our intervention on this particular theme is through trainings. And this is the one that you are enrolling, is one of our effort to do that. And at the end of every courses, we will have a what we call course projects, where we hope that the participants would try to integrate human rights-based approaches into certain planning or certain issues where they want to work on more. And this is will be a part of the later stage of this training, which I will talk about later in the technical briefing. So just the final words, because again, you will get a lot more about this in the modules. Next slide. So human rights and SDGs are mutually reinforcing. The fulfillment of rights can accelerate achievement of SDGs. Local governments should invest on a more inclusive and participatory, in this case for COVID, recovery plans, which will better protect lives and livelihood for future risks. We know that the risks that cities are now facing are multiple, and there are like climate change, disasters, rural-urban displacement, you name it, cities have it. And we see that human rights-based approach can help cities to address those issues in a more participatory, inclusive approach. And specifically for disaster risk reduction and climate resilience, RWI also work on how to integrate rights and equality to disaster risk reduction and climate resilience policies and programs at the city level, which we will piloting in the next couple of years. And last, but certainly not the least, human rights-based approaches investment is not a cost. Yes, it does require a lot of effort. It does require a lot of work, but it is an investment for a very hopefully long-term impact for the cities and the people within the cities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Windy, for your presentations. It was an amazing briefing to all of us. And we can conclude that the human rights and the SDGs are mutually reinforced. And I take note of your final words that it was, I mean, those two are mutually reinforced, and we should not contradict each other. And because the SDGs and human rights is the whole package, so it's naturally one. So thank you once again. And next up, I'll give the floor to Sosu from the ADN to facilitate the panel discussions. So Sosu, the screen and floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Hendra. Hello, everyone. My name is Sue. I'm the Senior Program Manager at the Asia Democracy Network, and I'll be facilitating this panel. So this panel, we have four exciting speakers. We have practitioners in the field of academia, local government, and civil society who are actually working on localizing SDGs and incorporating human rights. So we will hear from them and get a deeper understanding of how incorporating human rights and localizing SDGs is working on the ground level. So I will, let's see, so just to kind of share the guiding questions so that we have an idea of what we'll be hearing. So we've asked the speakers to speak on the following questions. Why human rights are important for local SDG policies, particularly those relevant to gender equality environment. What are the opportunities and challenges to integrate human rights into local SDG policies? Moving forward, what are the main action points you would recommend to strengthening the integration of human rights into local SDG policies? Each speaker will have 10 minutes to share with us your thoughts. I respectfully ask that we keep to the 10 minutes, and if I interrupt you, please forgive me. We just want to be on schedule. And then I will share the bio of each speaker as we call them up. So the first person, speaker we have in line is Dr. Nathavu Pimpa. He's the Associate Professor and Assistant Dean, Sustainability Chair, Managing for Sustainability Program at the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue in Thailand. He has received his doctorate in philosophy from the Monash University. Without further ado, Dr. Pimpa, I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Oh, thank you very much. So thank you, the organizer, for this event, and I'm totally shocked to be invited to be here. Well, you know, the topic is actually something close to my heart, because when you talk about this issue, first of all, I can see the point that Wendy presented before, that human rights is closely related to sustainable development goals for many aspects. Well, first, if you think of the core of sustainable development goals, we are talking about the pledge to leave no one behind, right? And the leave no one behind, that idea really reflect on the fundamental human rights principle of non-discrimination, of equality, and of inclusion. So if you think back to the concept, we are talking about the human rights as the something that you inherited as right to live your life for liberty, life for freedom from slavery, torture, and rights for education and work. And all the 17 goals, as Wendy presented previously, you can see the interlinkage among them. And this will really promote how we really adopt the human right-based approach in the SDG. Okay, and if you look at example in different corners of the world, we understand that the SDG might be seen as the global issues, but with the local lens, if you look at how we can make a difference in our area, we found that obviously the achievements of the SDG, let's say by 2030, will depend on our ability to make the cities or the local area happen, okay? And the role of delivering basic services, providing good conditions and facilities for the citizen will be the key factors to the achievement of SDG as we plan. So the human rights, in my opinion, go hand in hand with the SDG approach. I actually am asked to talk more about the gender issue, since my work is in that area previously. And in my center, I work in the area on business human rights and gender issues. So when you look at this aspect, and I like to focus on the fact that you might think of gender equality as SDG 5, right? But actually they are also interrelated and can be a part of all other goals. Think about this. Gender equality come in terms of the target mentioned the end all forms of discrimination against women and girls, or elimination of violence against all women, or in terms of economic empowerment, providing them right to economic resources and ownership of land, as well as participation in social public policies. But if you look closely at the data that is available in the world at the moment. For example, we have the ASEAN indicators, SDG indicator baseline report. Even though it mentions that the situation on gender equality and the issues related to human rights can be improved year by year, but we also suffer from the fact that women and girls spend as much as 11 times more of their day than men and boys on unpaid care and domestic work, because of the traditional belief that this is the socially constructed work for women and girls, right? You have to do cooking, cleaning, collecting water and fuel because you are women, right? Because this is social norms and this is unpaid work, so it hasn't never been mentioned, and that doesn't really promote formal kind of economic empowerment for women in the long run. Or when you think of this and its relationship to health issues, the WHO even reported this kind of relationship between the involvement of girls and women in unpaid work and health-related issue. That is also a part of climate change, which I come into this point later, right? This can be also reflect from a report from the Asian Development Bank that we still need more women's representation in decision-making and leadership roles, which is also limited at the moment. We hardly discuss issues such as leadership for girls and how can we really promote roles of women in the parliament, for example, in the formal way and in the sustainable world. So this is the emphasis of the fact that we need to adopt the human rights-based approach into SDG, because we have to include everyone, including girls and women, into this picture. Well, in terms of opportunities and challenges, well, my work, thank God, it allows me to do a lot of study, discussion, and listening. Well, first, I agree entirely with Wendy that when it comes to make the city more sustainable or local sustainable, you can see more opportunity in that, but at the same time, you can see certain challenges. Okay. Well, first, if you think of the fact that the achievement of the SDG can be depend more on the ability of local policies or local actors to promote integrated, gender inclusive and sustainable development into the action. This is easier said than done, in my opinion, because first, we still, if you remember the fact that the majority of policymakers who make this thing happen still look at this through the men's lens instead of the gender inclusive lens. If you think of strategic project that is related to SDG based plan or a live plan, you need involvement and participation of local stakeholders and also women groups. Okay, women to work in the community, women to work in academia, women who work in the individual citizen, but their voice may not be fully included in a certain area, right? So when we talk about the nice NGO terms such as multi-stakeholder approach, please include women into part of this. That's my heartfelt feeling on this issue. And otherwise, you may not be able to achieve what you plan in the long run. A good example in terms of opportunity that I saw a few months back, I had a great opportunity to work in a project on sustainable consumption and production with EU. And I realized one project called Milano Urban Policy Food Pacts, which is the sort of, it is international at the moment, but it started from the local area in Milan. And the idea was to combine issue on sustainable consumption, sustainable production in food, and mitigating impact of climate change that would influence life of women, and of course, affordable food to stop hunger among girls and women at school. All of this started or kickstarted by the initiative of the city, but also the inclusion of girls and women and the family to be part of this. So this is not just the one idea from the authority, but from the people in the community. That sounds good, but sometimes in this project, I also heard that the challenges that comes in order to include women as part of the movement. You have to think of public institutions need to promote involvement of citizens, which also include vulnerable groups, through the mechanism that facilitate their participation. Sometimes, our identity is not just singular. We tend to have multiple identities. So you might be a woman, you might be a homeless, you might be an uneducated mother, or you have got different hats to wear. And sometimes that points are not taken for granted. So when they are not a part of this involvement in planning stage of the plan of the project, then this is not inclusive. But in the Milano Urban Policy Food Pact, they really look at this very carefully. And when they expand into it, they found that when women of different walks of life can be a part of this, then they are keen to participate in the implementation and monitoring of the project. Right, so this is the challenges and opportunity that comes in only one project. Apart from that, I also remember another great initiative during COVID-19 on the promotion of women empowerment through public-private institution in forms of platform or connectivity or to the marketplace for women. That seems to be something sounds impossible in the old day, but it is, and it really changed the mechanism of human rights-based approach in empowerment. My other point here is when you think about what to say, or when I move forward and main action that we need to do to strengthen the issue, a few things, but still I believe that if you look at the whole SDGs, we certainly need to localize the 2030 agenda through the inclusive planning processes at local level. Otherwise, it will be, universal global messages, which perhaps doesn't work in many circumstances. But to adopt that national specific gender-based target, you need to have the voice of women. I might sound like I'm recording, keep talking about this issue, but this is, I think it's important. That's how I feel, because, for example, if you think of SDG 17 partnership in the promotion of SDG, without gender lens, you can't do things such as mobilizing resources to improve domestic revenue collection. You don't have statistics, you don't have information how women and girls were educated, become the breadwinner, or provide resources to family. There is no way you can promote the inclusivity in the policy. Or if you think of one other aspect, which is when you think of women as the important agent of change, if you don't look at the roles of multi-roles of women in society in the local areas, or having them in the public policy process, it is almost impossible. Do we have enough data on this issue? Do we have enough evidence for better planning and monitoring and also implementation of gender responsive issues, right? The last point here is, what I can see is we have to think local, right? But also modern our thinking. For example, I understand we see this gender-based issue, and we tend to think of big broad policy, but issues such as gender and climate adaptation, disaster risk as mentioned, as well as renewable energy in the local area. How often we have included women in this kind of local policy, even though we know that women became one of the first group who might be vulnerable to climate change and disaster for a number of reasons that is related to gender. But the lack of inclusion of women in some part of the world, including Southeast Asia, can be something that we need to unfold and discuss if we want to create the human rights-based approach in the achievement of our SDG. I might stop at this point, but I'll be more than happy to discuss further points with you at the Q&A session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Pimple. Very on time. And I just wanted to emphasize that you were talking about the importance of integrating human rights into SDG, but the governments and when in this process, we must involve the vulnerable groups and make sure to include the voices of women in the process as well. Thank you so much. Next, we have Dr. Nana Starada Dwi Martadi. He's the Assistant for Economic Development and People Welfare of the City of Semarang, Indonesia. He has held previous positions as the head of the Semarang Regional Development Planning Agency and the head of the Education Office of the City of Semarang. Dr. Martadi, I'll give you the floor. Dr. Martadi.
Screen sharing was disabled participant.
Yes, Pak Nana.
Okay. I don't can share screen. I'm sorry.
Saya bantu dari sini, Pak, share screen-nya.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for everyone. First, warm respect to Dr. Tuti Alawiyah, Deputy Director of RWI, Jakarta Office, talk about RWI, yeah, and right. Second, Dr. Bernadia Chandra Dewi, Secretary General of UCLA ASPAC, yeah, Gwangju International Center, and Mr. Ical Supriyadi, Secretary General ADN, and other participants in this kick-off. Thank you for including us in this kick-off. Before starting the presentation, I will tell you about the profile of the city of Semarang. Next. Okay, Semarang city profile, an area in 372.3 kilometers square. Yeah, registered citizen 1.68 million, and I have 16 district and 177 sub-district. Yeah. Actual population 2.5 million, and Semarang diversity symbol warak ngendok. Yeah, warak ngendok is several culture and dragon head for Chinese, camel body from Muslim, and goat leg from Java. As part of the Republic of Indonesia, Semarang upholds the value of life equality and according with the spirit of gotong royong, yeah, by Mr. Soekarno, our independent leader, and popular quote by Mr. Soekarno, we want to establish a nation that is founded by and for all. Dari sana ini. Next, please. The foundation of national development by Mr. Soekarno in 7 years ago is hand in hand with sustainable development goals, leave no one behind. In Semarang, we implemented the concept of horizontal development, bergerak bersama, or moving together. Is government, private companies, media, and community. Next. Equality and diversity is the foundation for regional development. Embracing equality in any opportunity, Ogo-Ogo Festival, Easter Carnival, Islamic competition, Lutheran tradition, Chinese New Year market Semawis, and Vesak Day at Mahavira Temple. Next. Okay, next. Everyone can easily express their aspiration. In the Semarang city, we have aspiration service accessible online for everyone by lapor handy. Next. Everyone receive free facilities from birth to death. In bahasa Indonesia dimulai dari starting by persalinan gratis, imunisasi gratis, pendidikan dasar gratis, beasiswa pendidikan tinggi, pelatihan kerja gratis, kartu prioritas lansia, tempat pemakanan gratis, ya, akta kelahiran gratis, makanan tambahan gratis, kredit murah, dan jaminan kesehatan gratis, serta santunan kematian. Translate for English.
So everyone receives free facilities from birth to death, starting from when they were reborn, born, and then they can get the civilian certificate for free, and then vaccination, education, and higher education, and trainings, and then also when they get older or as the seniors, and then until they and up to the when they are dead. So everyone can get this free facilities from the government.
Program-program ini merupakan program dari wali kota terkait tadi gotong royong, ya, bergerak bersama, di mana sebetulnya sudah mengkomparasikan antara HAM dan SDGs.
This program is by the mayor of Semarang from the Working Together program, and it implements the SDG and the implementation of human rights.
Next slide. Oleh karena itu, dalam rangka menggaransi sebelumnya, next, before.
The previous slide.
Oleh karena itu, wali kota dalam rangka implementasi terhadap bergerak bersama tadi, ya, dalam ranah gender, ya, juga memberikan beberapa program-program seperti Rumah Duta Revolusi Mental, kemudian juga Pusat Pelayanan Terpadu Seruni, dan untuk HAM juga berkaitan HAM dan gender juga ada ruang difabel Semar Cakep, di mana itu untuk pemberdayaan yang berbasis gender.
So as the implementation of the Working Together program, all the vulnerable groups in the city can get service guarantee, like the counseling services for child bullying, counseling services for violence against women, and support system for people with disabilities, where this public services also helps to provide the needs for like low counseling, and also to include the women for the equality, gender equality.
Next slide. Kemudian kalau kita melihat sejarah, ya, banyak sekali peluang ekonomi yang ada di Kota Semarang ini, mulai dari agrikultur, kemudian manufaktur, kemudian perdagangan dan jasa, ya. Ini merupakan trickle down effect ekonomi, ya, yang menjadikan saat ini Kota Semarang salah satu kota yang tertinggi laju pertumbuhan ekonominya pasca pandemi.
If you see the history in Semarang, there has been a lot of economic opportunities because we have the agriculture sector, manufacture and trade and services, and also tourism. These sectors help us in the trickle-down economy, or the economy from top to bottom, and to help us with the equal economy. And these factors help Semarang as one of the fastest cities in Indonesia to recover after pandemic.
Laju pertumbuhan ekonomi Kota Semarang ketika pandemi itu minus 1,8, ya. Tetapi setelah pasca pandemi ini di tahun 2022 ini telah bangkit kembali dan nilainya mencapai 5,3.
The economic growth in Semarang during the pandemic was minus 1.8, and now after pandemic in 2022, it has been rising up to 5.3.
Gantian ya Mbak. Next. Kemudian salah satu prioritas wali kota dalam beberapa inisiasi program yang dilakukan, salah satunya adalah merubah pemukiman kumuh menjadi tempat wisata, yaitu di Kampung Pelangi, ya, di mana tadinya wilayah tersebut merupakan daerah miskin, tidak tertata, jarang dikunjungi orang. Dengan adanya inisiasi dari masyarakat setempat, ya, dan bersama Bapak Wali Kota, kemudian menjadi sebagai salah satu tujuan wisata.
One of the mayor's priorities is to change the slum area into tourism spot. This area was poor, and now because from the initiatives of the mayor and the society, this area is now becomes a tourism object.
Ini kaitannya dengan HAM, ya, dan SDGs terjadi di program inisiasi ini, di mana pengentasan kemiskinan, kemudian memberi hak kepada di sana ibu-ibu untuk berusaha, serta perbaikan pendidikan masyarakat itu berkaitan juga interaksi antara HAM dan SDGs.
This program is one of the implementation of human rights in SDG because in relation to human rights, this project can improve the welfare of the society, the education, and it can help improving the area.
Next. Nah, ini tadi yang saya sampaikan bahwa dengan cara pemberdayaan masyarakat, memberi hak pada semua saja, ya, melalui program bergerak bersama, sehingga laju pertumbuhan ekonomi di Kota Semarang sebelum tahun 2010, ya, sampai dengan sekarang ini 2021 menunjukkan peningkatan, ya. Yang sangat menonjol adalah ketika di 2020 itu ke 2021.
This is the figure I talk about, that with the empowering society through the working together program, we have always been successful in maintaining the economic growth, and we can see that in 2020 when it was minus, then we can improve and it's up to 5.16%.
Next. Kemudian juga indeks kemiskinan, ya, kita ketahui bahwa sebelum tahun 2010 ke bawah dan sampai dengan sekarang telah mengalami penurunan yang berarti, ya. Indeks kemiskinan ini tadi di paparan depan telah disampaikan akibat adanya dampak dari program pemerintah, ya, menggratiskan berbagai hal mulai dari ibu hamil sampai dengan orang meninggal.
And this is the figure of poverty index, as I have mentioned before. So since 2006 up to 2010, up to when we compare up to now, there has been a significant decrease as a result of the mayor's program, where we give lots of free facilities for the public.
Next. Oke, next. Kemudian tentang HDI ya, atau Indeks Pembangunan Manusia IPM ya. Dapat diketahui bahwa dulu sebelum program-program inisiasi yang lebih mengutamakan pemberdayaan masyarakat ya, hak masyarakat ya, termasuk dalam rangka pemenuhan 17 program SDGs, Kota Semarang IPM-nya itu jauh di bawah kota-kota lain ya, baik yang di Jawa Tengah maupun kota-kota besar lainnya di Indonesia. Bahkan dahulu Kota Semarang itu masih nomor 3 ya, IPM-nya atau HDI-nya dibanding Solo maupun Salatiga kita kalah ya. Tetapi setelah adanya inisiasi program tentang pembangunan manusia yang berbasis HAM dan SDGs, sekarang HDI atau IPM Kota Semarang itu bahkan bisa melampaui beberapa kota besar di Indonesia seperti Surabaya, Bandung, dan Jakarta.
So before the mayor's program on the society rights fulfillment, including 17 programs of SDGs, Semarang's HDI was still below several cities. But now, since 2015, after the implementation of the program, Semarang is now even above other big cities like Surabaya, Bandung, and Jakarta.
Next. Sebelum mengakhiri presentasi, perlu saya sampaikan bahwa tahun kemarin Kota Semarang menjadi tuan rumah Festival HAM ya, tingkat nasional. Ya. Penunjukan Kota Semarang sebagai tuan rumah tentu tidak lepas dari penilaian tentang HAM ya di Kota Semarang. Ya. Oleh karena itu, Pak Wali akan terus komitmen karena HAM itu juga sudah tertera maupun HAM gender terus pembangunan manusia termasuk SDGs telah tertera di visi misi yang kemudian diregulasikan melalui Perda dalam RPJMD 2001-2025. Mohon maaf kalau paparan saya agak kurang bagus ya. Karena sebetulnya sampai jam 8 tadi Pak Wali akan membawakan sendiri paparan ini ya. Berhubung ada acara yang tidak bisa ditinggalkan, beliau memberi amanah saya untuk mewakili presentasi ini. Terima kasih saya ucapkan sekali lagi kepada semua pihak yang telah mengikut sertakan pemerintah Kota Semarang dalam kick-off seminar ini. Dan mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
As the conclusion of my presentation, I just like to inform you that last year, Semarang was the host of a Human Rights Festival. This is also because of the good reputation of implementation of human rights in Semarang. The mayor is consistent in the commitment of promoting human rights and HDI as the one of the implementations of the SDG. And this implementation is translated into the policies from 2021 up to the 2025 programs. My apologies for my lack of preparation for this presentation because it is only at the last minute that I was I got the sudden notice. We thought that the mayor himself would like to present, but then the notice is very last minute that I need to present. So my apology if my presentation is not right. And I'm really gratitude to our RWI and all parties to invite us Semarang in this training. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nana. That was a great presentation. It was very great to hear some of the various programs that the city of Samarang does to really be inclusive and bring down human rights to the local level. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to the interpreter for interpreting his presentation. Great, so thank you again. And then our next speaker, we have a representative from civil society. We have Prasad Bhandari. He's the executive director of the NGO Federation of Nepal. NGO Federation has been a long partner of the ADN. NFN is an umbrella organization of NGOs working in various fields of social welfare and development. Established in '91 for the promotion of protection of social justice, human rights, and pro-poor development. And it has evolved into a national organization working for the entire NGO movement in Nepal. And NFN is one of the leading organizations working on local SDG implementation. So I will give Whom the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue, for this opportunity. And yeah, you have very well introduced. And what I want to add to that is that NGO Federation of Nepal, which I represent, is also the hosting or is working as the secretariat of Nepal SDGs Forum, which is an open forum of civil society organizations working or trying to contribute for the implementation and achievement of the SDGs. So, okay, a lot of good things have already come and have been covered, and the earlier speakers have very well, laid the foundation and made a lot of things clear. And agreeing to that, and I would like to reiterate a few things and add to that. Yes, and as we are talking about human rights and SDGs, so we have been working, and we strongly believe that human rights can be a strong basis, foundation to hold the authorities accountable to fulfill human rights while we accelerate the achievement of the SDGs. So one of the reasons why we are taking this human rights-based approach is that how we can make the stakeholders more accountable, transparent, and how we can create space for the civil society as well, in which they can get engaged, they can contribute, they can participate. So this is really important. And so right-based approach is definitely, must for all actors. And the human rights to participate also guarantees the citizen monitoring, which is possible through citizen-generated data. So my point is that human rights-based approach will bring multiple stakeholders together where they can participate, they can contribute, and everyone's role and contribution is acknowledged, and they are given space. So citizens also can generate information, and they can fulfill the gaps and identify the gaps. And SDGs are based on, as earlier speakers have also pointed out, that SDGs are introduced in a way to implement a lot of human rights commitments and treaties, and we aim to ensure human rights of all in different priority sectors and dimensions. And SDGs should be the means to show, okay, I think that, SDGs are a means, and what our aim, our, goal is ensuring the human rights of all the people, and helping the people live a life of dignity. And people should be at the center, which is supported by the human rights based approach. And in this in this direction, local governments should be are very, very important stakeholders, and they are the the actors which directly deliver services and deal with the people at their doorsteps. And that's why it's really important that local governments localize and integrate the SDGs and set up the policies and institutions in line with the SDGs. So I also focus that based on my experience that they should do it a bit more consciously and systematically. When we go to many local governments and they say that, and what we hear from is that, yeah, we've been doing for a long time, but this is not that systematically done, and it's there are not real clear policies, procedures, and reporting systems. So that's the reason why I focus on doing it consciously and systematically, and local governments can demonstrate. So when the local governments do this, they also have the opportunity to demonstrate what they've been doing. So if they have the frameworks and if they have the particular system and if they plan, based on all of the human rights, so they can really have the opportunity to demonstrate that they have been contributing to the fulfillment and safeguarding the rights of the people. So as I'm representing the civil society, it's the human rights, democracy, and good governance that which are the priorities of civil society and CSOs. And this is how they can contribute to making the public and private interventions more people-centered and human rights friendly. And interventions only by considering the SDGs and sector-specific interventions will not really help us achieve the SDGs in real sense. So how to realize and how to achieve the principle of leave no one behind is also related to, is associated to the human rights approach. And SDG 16 plus can be a very good approach and a good way because that associates to human rights and a lot of agenda that civil society is really concerned to. Okay, and the next thing is that human rights based approach will create some kind of legal obligation to transparency, accountability, justice, and peace. And we have, as the Secretariat of Nepal SDGs Forum and leading civil society organization, we have done several exercises how we can link the SDGs and human rights and how the local governments are doing. And we have found that the situation of the localization itself is very weak. In that case, so human rights is something beyond that. The first thing is localization, and something integrating SDGs is more advanced than just localizing. That's why it needs additional effort. And when it comes to particularly about environment and gender, they're also a lot strongly related to human rights. For example, right to health, right to water and sanitation, and ideas of inclusion of the people living, people with disabilities and minorities and people who are vulnerable. So all the concerns of these people can be addressed if we work in the human rights-based approach. So rights of women and girls, and how we can safeguard their roles, and how we can ensure their meaningful participation can really be useful if we integrate SDGs. And one of the important thing is that local governments need to have targeted policies, programs, and budget to ensure the well-being of women, children, and people with disabilities and marginalized people, including Dalits, in our context. So there are a lot of challenges, as I already also mentioned. So human rights-based approach is something, more complex and more difficult, and what we have found is that according to the financing assessment of National Planning Commission, there is a lot of gap in financing for the SDGs, and one of the challenges will be the resources itself. And even if we have resources, particularly the local governments have limited capacity to mobilize those available resources, and they do not have some targeted programs, for example, targeted to women, children, older people, Dalits, or marginalized communities. So they are really trying to work in a status quo, in the same way that just doing, and there is not adequate understanding and ownership of human rights issues, and there is limited understanding that human rights are the integral part of our interventions and all the development functions. So a few way forward, I think we need to start with national policies and frameworks that can guide the local governments also how they can integrate and localize SDGs, and and help them how to map and how to link the SDGs and human rights, and how every action they do, we've been doing, and we have been contributing to human rights, and we can help them to some kind of mapping. And there is the need of building knowledge and sharing knowledge, both at the national and international level. So there are a lot of good things that a few local governments are doing, and they can be shared, and we need to create platforms and means to share those things. So at the same time, we can also help them link the SDGs with different human rights instruments at the national and international level, also like universal periodic review, and also we have recently done some exercises in participation of several stakeholders, including National Human Rights Commission. So I'm happy that I can see some stakeholders from Nepal which have been part of it. And we have found that a lot of goals, are almost all the goals, are associated with human rights, and they are really reinforcing, as the earlier speakers have said. So this kind of exercise from the national to the local level can also help integrate the SDGs with SDGs and human rights. So there are a lot of issues like right to land, right to resources, and protection from disasters, health, safety, and water sanitation. All these things are, these kind of human rights are also associated with environment and human rights. So we need more discussion, and civil society will need more capacity and resources so that they can mobilize civil society organizations from national to the local level, and we need to create platforms to learn and share. So that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Hum. I believe our next speaker, Mayor Santosh, is he here? Okay.
I think he still have connection problem.
Okay, great. Yes, unfortunately, he has been having connection issues. So I think he will not be able to join. So we will go ahead and wrap up the panel at whom. And I believe after this, we have a survey for everybody. And we kindly ask if everyone could take a few moments to do the survey. And then after the survey, we will open the floor for question and answer for the panel. If you see the screen, we have just shared a QR. You could take your cell phone or mobile phone and scan that with your camera, and it'll lead you to a site where you could take a very short survey. And Wendy, for question and answer, should we have everyone put it in the chat box or?
Yeah, you can post your question live by opening your mic, but also post it on the Q&A box.
All right, so if everyone is doing the survey, we'll go ahead right into the question and answer, if that's okay. If you have a question, or please raise your hand. Let's see. Or if you have a question and you would rather put it in the chat box, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Hello, do you hear? I'm from Nepal.
Yes, hello. We can
It's
identify yourself.
yeah, just but I see in the screen your. I have a question with the whom from Nepal.
Yes.
Okay, are you listening?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Whom I know made a very good presentation on Nepal and mentioned, of course, localization of SDG, human rights based approach is very difficult, everywhere perhaps. Is it not, I see this concept, although very good, but it is not only difficult to at the local level or localization, but even at the higher level, highest level, federal, national level and the provincial level, it is equally challenging. So it's not the question of only localization. The human rights based approach is difficult, but I think the practicing this at the national and provincial level also equally difficult, which makes the task, at the local more difficult than ever before. Thank you. What does whom has to say about it? Other panelists.
Okay, great. And then I'll just collect all the questions and then give it back to the panel.
Okay, sure.
Yes, thank you. Next, we have a Zaman Shahidi. You have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is Shahid Jaman, Executive Director of ESD of Bangladesh. First of all, I would like to convey our heartiest gratitude to all panelists for excellent presentation regarding the subject and the training courses. Yes, we have some experience that definitely the human rights is the part of the parcel of SDGs. And if we consider the localization of SDGs, then it will be possible through the effective activation of local government actors. The very in-depth session has already done by some of the presenters regarding the opportunities, the learnings, and the existing scenarios and the canvas of the SDGs HRBA approach and the existing situations. Yes, when we are talking about the inclusiveness in a connection with the no one lagging behind, then obviously the activation of the local government is mostly required. But question is there that in most of the cases in Bangladesh and also the South Asia, that still now the central government is highly dominating all decisions, and the local government actors, especially the representatives of the local government, they have very limited scopes and opportunities to work through their own budgets and other aspects. Yes, we have some good example also in terms of the water, sanitations, and other issues. But my question to Dr. Pimpa, that yes, you appropriately mentioned one of the good example from European Union funded the food consumption and such related activities, which definitely contributed for the underprivileged segment of the society. My question to you that have any good example through the limited resource but the good commitment of the local government actors who are actually most successfully continuing their initiatives and activities for the SDGs through the HRBA approach. And the second question to the Honorable Mayor of City Corporation, who presented his PowerPoint presentation, but I have some confusion about one of the slides that he mentioned that the trickle-down approach or the top-down approach. So far, our understanding, without the participatory approach, without the holistic, inclusive approach, is it possible for continuation of the HRBA approach for the appropriately and engaging the appropriate local level actors for addressing the SDGs? Thank you.
Okay, and I see no other hands or questions. So I will give it back to our panelists, I guess, or, okay, we just have another hand for questions. This will be the last question. Daya, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have one question to maybe first speaker, Nat, right? My question is that, what are the problems and the challenges the local governments of Indonesia have been facing to internalize or localize the SDGs and the human rights? Would you please, share his experiences or knowledge to us?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Daya. Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and give the floor back to the panelists whom you got a question. So we'll start with you. Okay.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Dr. Surya Jungel, for the question. Actually, what he has said is quite right. He's right, and what he has said is that not only at the local level, SDG integrating human rights at the national level with itself is a challenge. I totally agree with that. That is the reason why we need to start from the national level itself. So first of all, national government should have some policies and frameworks so that it can integrate human rights with SDGs, and there can be some guidelines or documents so that sub-national governments can also contribute in the same way. So when we talk about human rights approach for SDGs, it's quite complex, and so many goals, so many types of human rights, right? And that really creates a lot of complexities. So that's why we need to find a particular approach to deal with that. So there can be many organizations, many agencies working in different sectors, and every agency should be capacitated and made aware to link the particular human rights. So definitely there are a lot of challenges. Not so if even the national governments have challenges, it means that we have a far way to go in helping or realizing the integration of human rights at the local level. Yeah, that's a great challenge, and we need to start working.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Then just to start with the last question too, because it was specifically for Nat, I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Sue. I think there are two questions, right? The first one was on example of countries or local areas where they might have scarcity in resources in the project they work with. You are absolutely right that the project in Milan was found. It was found, and then it was richness in resources and capacity to do that. I've foreseen one potential issues such as the collaboration of public-private sectors that would make it a little easier. For example, I mentioned a project by BCS, a company that is in communication. They have created the wholesale telecommunication, and they provide wholesale bandwidth, fiber optic construction to local areas in Eastern and Central Africa, in countries such as Mozambique, for example. And takes time, a lot of time for them and the local governors to create the operation and promote growth among women who are actually entrepreneurs, and help them to gain access to the marketplace. And of course, it reduced the gender gaps in the sustainable development aspect. Okay, so this is one thing, but again, there are two aspects in that photos. The leadership from the local areas and leaders that really work well with the private sector, in this case, BCS company. And this can be a case study in terms of technology and women empowerment, right? And for the second questions on what do I see as the challenge on doing this? It's very hard because I still think it's local aspect, but I look at this in the broad term. For example, I think if we need to make it a success case, the enabling factors for the localizing of the SDG can include so many things, such as the legal and political framework that guarantees democracy and respect for human rights and inclusivity. We need a legislative body and level of decentralization that recognize local and regional government as an autonomous level, in my opinion. Otherwise, then you have the constraint on finance, on rules and responsibility. And the third one, which is, again, I think it's really important anywhere I go, it's on capacity building on a local and regional government in relation to SDGs. We need to think on how to empower them to maximize the contribution. And even we have limited competency, we still have to empower them through this kind of capacity building. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And the final question was, there was the limitations of local governments when the federal or the central governments are highly dominating the process of decisions, and when local government have such limited ability and budgets. Are there any good examples of
Yep, I mentioned the BCS model, right, which is
okay.
the collaboration of public and private sector. And again, you know, I'm not saying we need a good Samaritan, a business that they can see opportunity in works and the business model that work in that circumstance. It's, you know, they have to spot the opportunity.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we covered all the questions, and we will go ahead and end this session there. Thank you so much again to the panelists for your great informational practices and experiences and perspectives. I think this is a good start to a lot of the participants who will be starting their training. And thank you again to all those who submitted your questions as well.